Paula Felstead from Hotelbeds. You're the new Chief Technology and Operations Officer. A very warm welcome. Thank you for joining me here at PhocusWire for a little chat about some of the things that you've seen since you've arrived and wider trends. So again, thank you for joining me, Paula.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay. So Paula, you joined Hotelbeds as the CTOO in October last year. So right at a crucial time, kind of as companies are starting to recover. But what's a little bit about your background? I imagine that not many people know much about you. And how did you end up with a career in technology as well?
So my career in technology happened completely by accident. So I'm actually someone who has struggled in education because I have dyslexia and ADD. And I had a space in my timetable because I was having to resit some exams. And I just chose computer science because I didn't know really what it was, and it filled a space in my timetable. What I found when I started working in computer science is actually I found it really easy. One of the few subjects that I actually found easy, I think mainly because I had a choice between ones and zeros. And so therefore it made everything suddenly click into place. But also I found technology such a broad topic that you can pretty much get into anything from a technology perspective. So that's how I got into technology, and I've never really looked back from there.
And just briefly then on your background, you've joined Hotelbeds from where?
So I joined Hotelbeds from Ingenico, which had been bought by Worldline, and prior to that I worked for Visa Europe. And I think this is really where I wanted to bring a different industry perspective into Hotelbeds. And that's one of the things that has been consistent through my career, is really trying new industries with a common theme of technology and transformation running through it.
Okay. So maybe this is a loaded question really, but I mean, what were your first impressions when you joined Hotelbeds? And presumably what's excited you about its future potential? As most people know, I mean, Hotelbeds has been going through some changes. It's made some interesting acquisitions, and it's ridden through the pandemic fairly intact. So what are your thoughts so far?
So I have to say my first impression about Hotelbeds was really driven by the passion and commitment shown by the people. I think Hotelbeds, through its team and its long history in the travel sector, has got some unrivaled connections, unrivaled knowledge and expertise. And I think they also have a unique combination of technology, data, and people. And I think that unique differentiator makes it more attractive and more interesting to our customers and partners than some of the global, more impersonal competitors.
So it's an interesting challenge for any business to have, which especially a technology one, to kind of marry that talent and people with culture and technology. It's an interesting, and we spoke to your colleague Carlos about that a few days ago. So for a technology company, this is perhaps an obvious question, but I mean, how do you see the role of technology in the future development of the travel industry as a whole?
Well, obviously, you would expect me to say that it's very important, given my job title.
Yep.
And I think this is really where I see technology as being central to the future development of the travel ecosystem and the industry as a whole. I think frictionless travel makes it easier to focus on what's really important. I think connect and collaborate with each other and really focus on the things that make a difference, which is actually the customer experience, the value-added services, and making sure that our employees and the employers stay safe. I think also the fact that technology helps us really focus on data-driven insights, which our focus in Hotelbeds is that if our clients grow, then we grow with them. And this is where we're really focusing a lot of time and attention in how can we provide our partners and customers with data that enables them to improve, grow, and be successful, because by their success, we become more successful. I think the other major point I want to focus on is actually, as you mentioned, post-COVID. I think COVID has been a massive push for really driving us all to a much more digital world.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we're using this push to really help us speed up and focus on what we can do more around digitalization. And I think it allows and frees up people to focus on the things that are really important. And this is where the people side comes in, which is actually what customers and consumers are looking for, is that differentiated, high service, high focus, and actually really understand what they want and how they want it delivered. And that is really what we're trying to enable to happen.
Yeah. So traditionally, you have a CTO. I mean, just before we went on air, we were kind of joking. I said, "What's a CTOO?" And you said, you also have responsibility for operations. So specifically, global operations, that function at Hotelbeds. I mean, where does the customer sit in your company's priorities? Obviously, they would always say the first, but there must be some reasoning around that assertion, correct?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the fact that why I talk about our people so much, particularly in operations, is that we're lucky enough to do not only be able to service our customers globally, but actually we have local regional teams which has local and regional knowledge about the way things are working, who our customers actually are. They're no longer just a number or a faceless person on the end of the phone. And that local but global capability is something that is uniquely Hotelbeds. And I think this is something that we really want to build on and treat as a differentiator, given that some of our competitors have adopted a global one-size-fits-all approach where they only want to engage with you via their website. If that doesn't work or you have an issue, it's very difficult to actually resolve those issues. And that's where Hotelbeds continues to invest in that personal and flexible touch. And that is something that we absolutely want to continue doing. So that's why I've talked about technology, data, and people. And that combination is really the key thing that we are betting on to be our future success.
You talked a little bit about your background and your enthusiasm by accident to get into technology. I mean, you're known as being quite an advocate for women in technology as well. Can you share some thoughts on that, Paula, and perhaps what you would like to see happening in the future in that regard?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as someone who entered into technology before there was much support for women entering into the STEM science area, I had some interesting early experiences. And I think this is something that has really driven in me a passion to support and advocate the inclusion of everyone into technology, particularly women and girls. So I actually supported Warwick University and ICT to do Girls in Tech and really promoted them to try and help get out and demystify the fact that technology needs to be a science or maths or data nerd. And actually what I love about working in technology is you actually have people who've got geometry degrees or music degrees or even no degrees whatsoever. And actually once they get into technology, they find there's all sorts of outlets for artistry, for logic, for design. You don't have to be, a maths and physics lover just to succeed in technology. And I think that for me, demystifying technology and making it accessible for everyone is something that I'm really passionate about. And I'm also passionate about the fact that in technology, it also not only can you be gender diverse, but you can also be neurally diverse. And actually some of the most innovative, creative people in technology either don't have a degree or have come at it from a very unusual route. And I think this is really where if we can get more people to get a taster into technology, then we'll find many more people embracing it and having a very successful career in it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and you very rare. I've not heard that phrase for a long time. Neurodiversity, because I think it's an important point. There's so much emphasis is put on postgraduate and undergraduate
Yeah.
qualifications to get people into the industry. Are there easy things that companies that are listening now that they can do to kind of push that kind of more women in STEM roles within the travel industry specifically?
Yeah, I think it all starts with understanding what sort of how you describe roles in the first instance. So I think a lot of people do a cut and paste when they're writing up recruitment adverts, and they cut and paste the fact that you minimum education is a degree in X. And actually, my view would be we should remove that completely, because actually that's not really what you're looking for. What you're actually looking for is something probably completely different. And so we need to move away from a tick box type culture in terms of opening up job roles to be as inclusive as possible, but also remove some of the barriers to entry. I've had particular success in previous organizations by changing the language in the job specification to fully embrace hybrid working, flexible working, because that encourages women in particular to apply, but also you should be really focusing on what skills and what type of person you're looking for, rather than have they ticked every single box. And I think if you can do that, then suddenly you will see a lot more candidates coming through that you wouldn't normally see. The other piece is really making sure that you educate the people that are actually doing the first level of recruitment meetings, to make sure that they understand that we really need to try and understand why you're not getting diverse pipeline of candidates. And for example, I had a very interesting conversation with a French manager a couple of years ago, where he said, well, there are no female technology candidates. And I said, because the education system isn't producing them. And I said, but why are you limiting yourself to only French candidates? Why don't you open the role to European candidates, so that you attract people who've got stronger engineering capacity in their education system? And we actually recruited a number of people from the Netherlands or Ukraine or Poland. And actually we changed the percentage of women in that French team from being only 10% to 20% in 12 months. And
Right.
that was a massive shift. But it all takes that mindset shift, that education and language shift throughout your recruitment process. And then suddenly things will start to happen.
Okay, very interesting. We're recording this the day after International Women's Day, so food for thoughts there. Paula Felstead of Hotelbeds, thank you very much for joining me today at PhocusWire. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.